All right, let's pull up this handy dandy review thing. So this is currently not a list of power rankings. This is literally a list about how happy classes are by reading the changes that they are seeing in the patch. And generally how you're feeling going into the patch. It's not a power level ranking. It is, yo, we're excited. Last time, Disc Priest got updated to Found God. So Demo started at Needs God, got moved down to somehow it got worse, and now have been moved back up. Resto Shaman got demoted. Windwalker is still on feet. Some people got, according to some people, but let's look at the actual changes. We looked at them yesterday, but we'll just recap them. So Death Knight, now the set bonus was buffed, right? It's 12 seconds instead of 10. And it also, the self bounces now also grant the damage increase. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed this or if they fixed this, but Atlas was showing me what it looked like with a chill streak on single target, but it like machine guns. It machine guns insane. Like it's like it does all of them all at once, and I thought that was pretty funny. But it shouldn't have any like power decrease because of that. But that was one thing. I think Frost is, where is Frost right now? Frosty K's in like so the 2-set fix an issue with Chill Streak not bouncing to the DK when used against enemies with a large hitbox. I know this was a problem, specifically on the Fireworm, like the first boss on the left wing after you kill the first two. So that's a decent change. And I think in general, just a good change that mobs that you're really far away from, which are generally speaking mobs with large hitboxes, Chill Streak has always felt bad because of that. So just a nice change in general. And the 4-set fix an issue as self bounces not granting the bonus rune or cooldown reduction. So I think overall just better. I'm just not sure if this actually moves Frost into we're feeling real good or good changes from I'm assuming it would actually, because this does actually feel a lot better. It makes this feel way better in single target, which was like kind of an issue with I'm just gonna move them up. We can go over it next week when I actually get one of them on probably. All right, Demon Hunter was the major one. So we actually had Demon Hunter in good changes. Initially, they were in feeling real good because they were getting reworked. And generally speaking, if you're getting reworked, no matter what happens along the way, when the patch comes out, you're going to be feeling real good. That's been true this whole expansion. But we moved them down because they made a lot of changes last week that made Havoc players mad. They had some weird spots on their tree. The tier set bonus had a lot of issues with it with Throw Glaive. The Spectral Sight thing made fodder never line up with meta. It had like a ton of fucking issues. This week they addressed a lot of those. Spectral Sight is still on the global and it still makes you use Spectral Sight, but at least it's going to line up with your meta now. It's not 2 globals instead of 1 because it's just going to get cleaved down in your I-beam anyway, rather than just you actually pressing Throw Glaive. Or maybe you'll just press Blade Dance and your Throw Glaive will hit it from that. So the global really isn't the issue and it's a little bit more controlled. And I think they did a bunch of other stuff here. They buffed the hunt by a lot, which is actually really good because the hunt is like really incentivized with the current tier piece. Sigil the Flame, I don't know if Havoc uses this a lot. I haven't played it recently, but just buffing Sigil the Flame in Sigil of Flame in general is going to feel really good because that spell has always just felt like a button you had that you used, but it felt like shit. So just increasing its power level in general is very nice. Might want to hear from some of them how it feels on the class tree now that's been relooked at, but there's a couple of really, really cool things they've done. So where is this? They gave them a few extra class points. This is in like the class tree here. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's super relevant. They had some really nice Vengeance stuff, which we'll get to in a second. We're looking at Havoc first. Yeah, most of this is for Vengeance. Like yeah, the whole like your sigils now have like a 2-second longer duration. All of that is really like Vengeance has way better sigils and stuff, so I guess it has some value to Havoc, but let's move on to the Havoc changes. So they changed the tier set bonus. I don't know if that was posted somewhere else here. Oh, is the tier set's in a different post, so we'll probably look at that in a second. But they made the tier set way less ass. But a couple really, really cool changes. So main one that I think is really awesome, and this does actually contribute towards momentum, is for 2 seconds after using Fell Rush, activating again will dash back towards your initial location. So every single time you're Fell Rushing, if you want to Fell Rush again, if you have this selected, you'll just go all the way back. This is clearly designed to be used with momentum. I think it's a sick talent. I hope, weirdly enough, that they don't actually take this. And the only way I can really describe that is because the other one is kind of alongside the whole game plan for... You're going to want the Fell Rush damage one because you're going to probably just play Unbound Chaos. So you using this, I feel like, to me, Dash of Chaos is designed for momentum, and Improved Fell Rush is designed for And even, well, maybe you don't even need it for momentum, but improved Fell Rush is designed for playing like Unbound Chaos and then also Inertia. And I'm just a big fan of playing Inertia. I'm going to be upset if you're not playing Inertia. I think Inertia is much closer to old momentum. Seems really, really fun. Or just skipping this entirely. You probably won't. I don't know. Maybe you just don't use this. But either way, I'm a fan of that existing because there's some really cool applications of that utility-wise rather than just pure, like, big damn do. They buffed a couple talents. They gave you a couple of extra choices. We'll see where some of this... I didn't get this one. Let's see if we can kind of summarize it a little bit. Is there anything else here that's, like, really sick? The threat-generated thing doesn't really matter. But just 4% verse is a good talent. Demon Hide doesn't really matter. Magic damage dealt by 5% reduces physical damage taken. Good. But if you guys are playing different builds this week, they made... The thing that I really like about this is you can play Fel Barrage, and it's pretty much exactly what I wanted it to be. It is something that you can put up. You are fully focusing on keeping it up during the time, but you can't keep it up, like, actually forever. It's, like, at least a decent amount of time. I think it's, like, 15, 20 seconds or something at most. My only concern with it is the gameplay to actually do it. I think currently what you do is you take Demon's Bite and you put this up. You obviously try to get some Immo Auras rolling, and then you're just pressing Demon's Bite to keep this up instead of like your buttons that are off cooldown like Blade Dance and stuff, and that feels really shit. I don't know. I think this has so much potential, but I hope it actually ends up being pretty good. And then the other talents on the left and right, I think are what you end up playing actually. You don't even play Fel Barrage right now, and they're just owning. But I wouldn't, if I'm a Demon Hunter, I wouldn't focus too much on that. I wouldn't focus on... oh, right now we're playing some different... Like, I would focus on it feeling good, and then, like, I don't know, you're getting reworked. You know you're going to own. I think they very obviously tune reworked classes to be strong in the patch, so people are more likely to interact with the thing that they just worked on. But yeah, anyways, moving through all that, made a couple other changes, and then they changed their tier sets. I don't think that's in this post, but basically they just made their tier set way better. So I'm assuming from DHs that I've heard, we're moving up Demon Hunter into feeling real good, which is probably... They may move up and down based on a few other changes throughout the patch. But in reality, if you're getting reworked, you're going to feel real good in the patch because you're getting owned. You're going to own. Hopefully you're not getting owned. So, Vengeance. I saw a lot of good things from Vengeance here. I talked to Dorky about it a little bit, though. He said that it doesn't feel as good. So most of these class changes are like really Vengeance-based. Like, just read some of these things. When you have Sigil of Flame dot on mobs, you... Where is it? 20% parry... There it is. Oh, wow. I didn't even realize these were the same thing. Dude, I read Sigil skills have 1 additional charge, and I was like, oh, damn, this one's also sick. I can't wait to talk about this. Where's the 20% increased parry one? It's the same talent. That's fucking insane. Because, like, Sigil skills have 1 additional charge in general is just crazy. And on top of that, you now have a 20% DR, generally speaking, especially in Giant Mythic Plus pulls from Sigil of Flame being up. Dorky said it did feel weird because, generally speaking... Not running up to pull 1 mob, but let's just say you're running up to pull, let's see, like, let's say there's some mobs here, there's some mobs here, there's some mobs here, and then you're meeting at the far point, and, like, this is where you want the pull to happen. Okay, like, as a Demon Hunter, picking up all of these packs, moving them from here to here, and then, like, dragging this pack and, like, grabbing and pulling, he said that felt way worse. He said that, like, actually pressing buttons to get things grouped felt worse because you now feel like you have to save Sigil of Flame for the actual pull. I don't know if that's like just his personal opinion or whatever, but when I read this stuff like this, he said it felt clunky, but I think these are awesome changes, and I'm pretty sure Vengeance Demon Hunters now will have the mantle for the single most stops of any class in the game. I think they'll beat Evokers. I think they'll beat Monks. Like, there's just... If you're looking at stopping any specific hard pack, you can have 2 silences, 2 grips, and 2 disorients from 1 class. That is insane. Like, actually crazy. So I think big ups for them. I don't know if they found God yet. I think we'll give them some time. I think they're still feeling real good. Oh, and a stun. Yeah. So I'm just going to say with all the potential design-wise, they're going to stay here. But because I've heard multiple people refer to them as clunky, I haven't played it myself. I'm just going to assume they're not, like, feeling unbelievable, right? But yeah, so moving down here, I think balance, I think generally speaking, stays the same. I know they like did the orbital strike fix and they swapped it in the its spot in the tree. What are we thinking? You have 2 times degree. Oh yeah, decree as well. I'm not sure about that. I think the feral change is like slightly better for AoE, but like a little single target loss, right? So all good there. The innervate thing we already knew about. I don't think Moonkin and Feral really move in either direction. This was just the most funny line of changes. Why would a ground-based AoE effect kill the trees? But it did, so... Resto Druid probably doesn't change. So Augmentation was nerfed recently, and they were feeling real good initially because they got no posts and they were super crazy. They got moved down because of a nerf, like a pretty decent nerf, close to 10%, it's like 7% or something. But now Prescience clears on Raid Encounter and Mythic Plus start, which I think is a dub for everybody, because if you're playing with Augmentation in the Raid, with the old tier set, or I guess current tier set, the Season 3 tier set, you would have done this super long pull timer to be entirely optimal. But now Presence has 2 charges, which is a really, really good change. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the issues with Raid and bringing Augmentation Evokers at all, and like how annoying it was to play around it, I think a lot of that is solved actually with this change. So it's not as much like they're feeling good. Maybe it is. But everyone else is feeling good, because if you were trying to play around multiple Aug Evokers in your raid, it became fucking infinitely less ass to actually accommodate that. So this is an excellent change. I don't know if they'd go all the way back up, but this is a great change for everyone. There's no more 50-second pull timers, so huge dub. I don't think we move them. If anything, move them up to good changes. I still think Augmentation Evokers are like, have this sinking feeling in the back of their mind where they're not, you can't feel real good because you think that maybe something else is coming. Okay, Devastation as a class now just passively takes 8% reduced magic damage, which is almost all dangerous damage you take in this game, which is, I really feel like this is an underrated change. This is a very, very good change. Not like, I wouldn't say good, I would say powerful. It's crazy. Just passive damage reduction, or things that happen without players having to think for themselves. So cheat deaths or passive DR or massive health pools. Some classes have some mix of those, or some classes actually have all of them. Those are like by far the most OP things, because pressing buttons is hard. Classes that have proactive defensives, even a ton of them sometimes eat shit because it requires you to actually press them. So super good for them, and then they also take a little bit more increased healing now. This one's way less important, but certainly good. Let's see. Preservation. I don't know. Some change. It's fine. All right. Big Hunters. Hunter's Mark now increases all damage taken by the target by 5% while the target is above 80% health. So on your opener, everyone in the raid's doing 5% more dam. Roughly equates to around a 1% raid damage increase. On fights where your damage you do in P1 matters at the end of the fight, which is a good bit of bosses, I would say roughly half. A lot of end bosses are like, actually roughly half of the end bosses this would be really relevant, and half it would be minorly relevant. I think this is good. Hunters have to be bottom fragging. Like all 3 specs have to be like the lowest single target in the game for this not to pretty much automatically put them into any boss that has this. And just like DKs, where you don't need grips every fight, but because you know that you need grips throughout the tier, you bring a DK all the time because, first of all, they're just a sick class anyway. They avoid all knockbacks. They don't get many magic debuffs. You know, they're pretty survivable, all that stuff, right? And then when you have a fight where you need a grip on it, it's not like you're bringing your DK off the bench with no gear. You want them to have gear, and also it's just been a really good class for a long time. Hunters are pretty similar, where there will be bosses where this definitely matters. It will give them a raid spot. But then there are a few fights where I can definitely see Hunters being a little upset about it, because like Razageth, for example, once you're like done with Razageth P1, that isn't really going to help you. This buff will absolutely help you push P1 like for the first couple of times, but when everyone was killing Razageth, you weren't actually struggling to push P1 in time. You might have wiped in P1 to people dying, but it wasn't because you were low on damage. And it's not going to help you in the burn of the fight. Sire Denathrius, having like a little bit extra damage in P1 in Sire where you were already stopping doesn't really matter. But on a boss like Sarkareth, you know, this is full value. Like this is just straight up helping you kill the boss in every way, and it would have been really, really strong. So my suggestion was on Twitter was, I think they should make this increase all damage taken by the target by 5% while the target is above 80% and also below 20. They have like the bullseye talent or whatever it is does something pretty similar, right? So it's already within their class like fantasy to have that happen, and it doesn't make this super broken. If you look at 5% above 80, giving them a 1% overall raid DPS increase, giving him it also under 20 makes it relevant on pretty much every fight ever, and it's only going to bring it up to roughly a 2% damage increase overall over an entire encounter, which is still weaker than Chaos Brand. So, but also it potentially becomes better than Chaos Brand because sometimes the hardest part of the fight is exactly those last 20%. So you're just doing that 5% faster, which is pretty good. So that would be my suggestion. They just implemented this. I'm sure they'll iterate on it. My only concern is if now you've realized that, you know, it's ridiculous for almost every raid class in the game to have it except for one or arguably two if you look at the Shaman thing. They were against it initially, but then now they've given hunters this thing. I just wouldn't half-ass it. Like, don't give them a raid buff where it's like, oh, sometimes it's good. Just fucking put them in the raid, man. Like, that's been the issue at this point, so just figure it out. So I think this pretty much does that. If you're a hunter, you're really happy. You probably hope it gets better for sure, but there's just no way you log on and you're like, I got a raid buff and you're not feeling good. I would say that this probably moves up every single hunter spec, at least one. Like, there's just no way that this doesn't increase it by at least one. Like, BM, you're looking at a class that actually has like a cooldown that feels good to play now. It's just better gameplay and the class is decently strong. But you just have a raid buff, man. So that has to make you feel real good, and I think it's going to keep getting better. We'll leave it here so we can wait for a hunter to clarify. MM is still completely trash. MM is still completely trash, but now with a raid buff. So that's got to go up to feels bad for sure. We can have a more nuanced discussion on that someday. And then same thing with survival. Survival might have a lot. Oh, survival actually had a couple other changes here. Let me read these real quick. I don't remember these from yesterday. Fixed an issue for any of the set bonus from pets crit. Survival. Okay, so survival had good changes and survival now has a raid buff. So I think survival's got to be put up at least to the mid tier of like good changes. So we'll put them up there. So good day for hunters. But also MM enjoyers are in the mud. Mage has they made this now clear. Okay, pretty much, yeah. I would just say this without giving a lot of input extra. Anytime something clears on encounter encounter start, I'm a fan of that. Pretty much any like pre-stacking shit is really annoying. Fire, same thing. I don't think those change though. Oh, Mistweaver, this is interesting. So I saw a screenshot of someone expel harming themselves for 4 million. Is that correct? Did you guys see that screenshot? So I don't really know exactly how we're feeling with this, but yeah. So probably feeling good, but they went a little hard on it. They said in a previous note that they made Healing Elixir passive because they wanted you to use other buttons like Healing Elixir, and like you don't really use it, right? Or not Healing Elixir, Expel Harm. So they decided to buff it. So they nerfed the talents that like Giga buff it, but they buffed its base value by a lot. And they also made Healing Elixir proc more often and give you more health, which I don't know if procking above 40 is actually a buff, but you would definitely take this if you get it just being more powerful, right? And this one, I don't really know how this works. I'm sure people have tested it. This probably just sounds like every 30 seconds when you have 2 charges of Healing Elixir, it just goes off natty. If you exceed 2 charges, it heals you. Yeah, but like how often? Because like it's not going to keep charging when you have 2 charges, right? Because it doesn't go up to 3. No other mechanic in the game works like that. So is there just like an ICD of 30 seconds after having 2 charges where it just heals you? That's how it works? Oh, you're saying so for the first time ever, even when you have a 2 charge ability, if you're sitting on 2 charges, you'll actually see the thing rotating and you'll see when the heal is actually going to happen to you. It's not on an ICD. It will give you a 3rd charge, which just heals you. Okay, so you have 2, and it cools down and recharges all the way to 3. When it gets to 3, it doesn't actually give you the 3rd charge. It just goes off and starts recharging again. That's cool. I like that. Makes it also much more visual than an ICD, for sure. Rising sunken damage increase. I don't know. Where were Mistweavers last time? Mistweavers were feeling real good, and that was because their tier set was giving them like the most crazy bonus ever. But this is all just a bunch of healer jargon, so I don't know if this makes them feel real good again. I don't know. Looks like they nerfed some things, buffed some other things. Here's another thing. I don't know if a lot of players care about this, but the last boss almost says in the journal, use a Mistweaver for this. So I don't know if we like discussed that yet, but like it's almost like Blizzard was like, man, these people have almost come around to playing a bunch of Mistweavers on the last boss, but this time we really want to hammer it home. I don't know. But also, aren't Mistweavers in this weird loop of like feeling like they're going to be super OP for every patch, then they end up being dog shit? So I imagine even if you have all the reasons to feel good as a Mistweaver, you're probably just like waiting for it all to end. So maybe by default, Mistweavers can't be in the feeling real good category because you just feel like there's no way it's going to happen. It's impossible to feel good because you just can't be confident about it. Okay. I'm down with that. Windwalker, interesting. So Windwalker is down in feet tier. They changed it to where now you no longer get extra spinning crane kick procs, but it'll just proc randomly. And then also during Chi-Ji and Serenity, you get this proc. They also buffed the proc. Well, they nerfed it to be 150 instead of 200, but it gives you 3 seconds of reduction on these abilities instead of 2. So it's been 1, 2, and then now 3. I don't know. So it's already in its nice feat tier, though. But the thing is Windwalkers are pretty terminal now. Like, even if Windwalkers were, on average, the same power level they've been, but just in a new tier, you would assume that they feel right? But Windwalkers have been, like, down bad for a bit. And then on top of that, the feat thing was just them fundamentally not understanding the tier set. But then they changed the tier set to not be based on just your melee swings again. So we moved it up from Needs God. I don't know. I feel like it needs to be a new role. Here it is. This class needs rework bad. Because the only good part about this is now it makes Serenity a lot better. But Serenity's awful. It's so fucking dog shit. So, I don't know. Nah, this class needs a rework bad. I'm putting it there and I'm sticking to it. Let's see. Holy Paladin. Sanctified Plates, 40% less effective. Well, Holy Paladin's already and got absolutely fucked because they just keep getting nerfed every single week. But now I think they buffed their tier, right? Let's see. Now correctly works with Mastery, increases haste. I don't know. We'll probably just leave them there. They're just a little more squishy now. So I think I was a little confused when I first read this because, like, why would you nerf Holy Paladin Sanctified Plates when Ret Paladin is already more tanky than Holy? That just sounded weird to me. But then I think the main reason is because Holy Paladins are currently the tankiest healer by a lot, according to the community. So they needed to be nerfed specifically because they can't be that tanky as a healer. Meanwhile, Red Paladins can still just actually be unkillable, which is fine. All good. They should be. They wear plate. Yeah, but, like, that's not really how the game works. Because if you were going to say, oh, all plate classes need to be tankier, then they would need to have setbacks in other areas. And I think everyone here would understand that if that meant you lost any power whatsoever outside of tankiness, you would just infinitely, right? So they don't really have that option. Let's see. Disc got some changes to Ultimate Penitence being a little bit better. Harsh Discipline redesign. I don't know. Disc Priests are feeling great. No reason to move that around. Fix an issue with Holy. Nothing changes there. Oh, Shadows thing is interesting. I don't know how much this affects them. I'm pretty sure this was just a straight up nerf, but man, Shadows still feels like they got absolutely fucked, huh? So Priests are tanky and Holy Pallies aren't. That makes 0 sense. Huh? Holy Pallies are tanky. They need to fix the rework and stop having Shadow Priest in Limbo. Bro, I think Shadow Priest is like the most reworked class of all time, which is ironic because every class that's getting reworked now is goated and Shadow just can't get it right. I wonder how they deal with that. What are your thoughts about DH having 7 AoE stops, but Warrior has Shockwave as a capstone because it would have been OP? I'm not arguing with that. I've said that from the very beginning that is ridiculous. And I think that something this expansion is having to deal with a lot is with the class trees that they've implemented into the game, some classes that have multiple different roles within their class, not just pure DPS, and especially classes that have healing specs, naturally have a lot more utility and group utility. And that is the thing that is like majorly unbalanced in the game right now, is like the amount of utility. Like if you compare utility of, you know, not even specific, like not even the top class and the lowest class, but the 5th class and the or the 5th spec and the 33rd best spec. I mean, it's still like, it's massive, you know. Well, DH doesn't even have extra specs. It's just more like, yeah, randomly super insane. Okay, Indiscriminate Carnage now works better. Assassination, all rogue specs are still feeling great, I think. The rogue vibes are pristine. They had some good changes in here. 10% extra health. It's a pretty small amount of healing here, but having the 10% extra potential one-shot health is really, really strong. Dude, I feel like Ellie in general hasn't been getting enough attention. I feel like Ellie Shamans are feeling great. But isn't the game bugged right now? I thought I heard that when you're like prim waving with this new tier set, doesn't it shoot all the lava bursts just into your main target? Which is like fucking hilarious. And like probably insane, like insane single target. But so probably pretty hard to tell. Ellie Shamans feel awful. Last week they felt pretty good. So that means that this week they must feel really bad specifically. The change that I liked was the Further Beyond thing. So without any buffs to compensate for this, it feels bad. But this is definitely good design though. The keeping things up forever, especially things RNG based, is really, really annoying. I still just very strongly feel like every keep cooldown up forever spell in the game should be made more powerful, but have a capped out duration. It doesn't have to be a straight up cap. It can just be, I think it should be skillful to make it be extended, but its extension should be limited and it have its power increased to make up for that. It creates cooldown windows. It feels more powerful, and it's not defining your entire rotation for an entire fight. So hopefully they're able to do that with Further Beyond. And I liked the Primwave changes last week for sure, especially the... Oh no, I think it's this week actually. I was playing Enhance in dungeons, and this was super noticeable. Like, as much as it felt nice to have like unbelievable haste and like a massive AoE pull, you had like a little too much haste. Like, you would have absolutely taken away a little haste to have it be better on single target. And dude, pressing Primwave on single target is so noticeable now. It used to be so dog shit. It feels so much better to use Primwave on single target for Enhance, at least. I'm assuming it feels the same for Ellie. And then, yeah, it's weird to talk about the tier set because it's just currently not working. But Ellie can't be feeling too good because just as much as Hunters all got moved up for not having a raid buff, Ellie Shamans are now the singular DPS spec and one of 2 specs in the entire game that does not bring something you need in the raid that is required. That's gotta feel terrible. So maybe you move it down because of that. In the please give me a raid buff tier. I don't even know what they do. People are saying just make all Shaman specs get Wind Fury. So like you pick the best Shaman spec and just put them in that group. Bro, as much as Shamans want a raid spot, if Ellie Shamans had to put down Wind Fury Totem, you would not be able to hear the raid leader talk through how loud the Ellie Shaman would be reeing the entire pull. They would be so mad. And that's the same thing with Sky Fury Totem. You don't have to even be complicated with it, man. Just what's really weird about it is if they give Shaman, let's just say like a Mark of the Wild style buff, like a bring one and forget it, you're just going to bring that on Enhance because they'll have Wind Fury and that. So it doesn't really solve anything. Unless you made it to where it's like something that Ellie and Resto bring specifically, and then now that's required, and now Shamans become the second class where you actually need 2 of them in a raid. I don't know, it's all cursed. Max, you're forgetting Windrush, best utility in game. I'm not forgetting about Windrush. Certainly not the best utility in the game. Enhance. So Enhance was in good changes. I played Enhance on PTR yesterday. Dare I say, I think Enhance is feeling real good. The class already felt great, and they received nothing but good changes, and they just got 2 spec tree points for free. So I'm thinking I'm gonna go ahead and just throw Enhance up. I think Enhance is feeling awesome. And rest of Shamans didn't receive any changes when they feel like they need them, and they also don't bring a raid buff as one of the only 2 specs in the game. Every other healer brings something to the raid that is required, and they don't. So they have to go down. Somehow it got worse, even though nothing happened to them specifically. What happened to them around them, or what happened around them changed. Warlock. So Warlock has been getting a lot of changes, but I don't want to read any of this. Oh, this is just demo today. Probably goes to the top. Where's THD at? There ain't no way.
None of these changes do anything about the gameplay issues, so THD will still be Dobby. That's the right thing to do.
Like, when you guys are looking at changes in PTR, man, design is like, especially this early in the patch, it is like 90% of importance. How something feels to play is everything. Because at any point, it could go massively up or down with one change. It's all about feel. Because even if you own right now, like, there is nothing good about owning this early in the patch. Because if you're owning on PTR, you're just sitting there with a target on your back the whole time. You want it. There's a time in PTR where you want to actually do a ton of damage, and it's not right now. Let's see. THD said it's still worse than old, but better than it was last week. It's probably not in the needs God. Okay. So moving up to got absolutely fucked. This is a Windwalker only tier. This is a Windwalker only tier. Every other class can step the fuck aside. Fucking step away. And then Fury Warriors got worse, right? Because now this made the gameplay worse and it nerfed them or something.
Wait, didn't change anything? It went from bad gameplay to bad gameplay? So we're just chilling and getting fucked ain't good, you know? Or maybe it is, depending on what you like, I guess.
Discord said it was a 10 to 15% single target nerf.
That's a big number. All right, they need God. That's a big number.
Dude, I'm such a fucking biscuit today, man.